Let us get started, folks. And here is the agenda for today's discussion. First of all, I welcome you all for this demo session. And I'm quite happy that you guys have decided for this demo. Let's set agenda for this demo session. And you guys can always tweak this agenda any moment. And we'll pursue this agenda for today's discussion. So this demo session will consist of first talking about what the API course is, API Connect course is. We'll talk briefly about IBM API Management and API Connect, and of course the difference between the two, because that's the source of much confusion. So we'll talk about it. We'll also talk about some details about the API and what they mean in the current world. May touch base upon microservices too. And then I will open the floor for your questions. You are free to ask questions after that. So that's at the very high level, the agenda for today's discussion. I'm hoping that you guys have got the PDF which talks about the course outline. So if you have any question over there, you can ask me. I'll also talk about a few details that is not there in the course outline, but we are going to cover it. Soon those points will be added into the course outline PDF. So they are not there. I haven't got a chance to put them there. So this is at the very high level, the agenda for today's discussion. Feel free to pause me at any given point in time to ask your questions. That's I will be much happier to be in a conversational mode rather than just me speaking up. This is a virtual meeting, so it is imperative that take it in a conversational mode. It will be helpful for both of us. Let us get started. This is the course. This is a course about IBM API Connect, which is known previously as IBM API Management.
Excuse me, sir. We don't have the course breakdown. Can you display on the screen if you have any?
Learn Chase team, would you mind sending participants the course outline? They need it.
I have already sent them, sir. Can you please showcase that on your screen, if possible? Or else shall I share my screen?
No, that's fine. As long as the course outline is with our participants, it's fine. I remember that, so I'll share my screen and I will present it to them. Will that be fine, guys, for now?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Okay, so let us continue. This course is all about IBM API Connect, which is formerly known as IBM API Management. Well, API has become a buzzword. Well, I would say it was a buzzword a couple of years ago, but now it's not. People now have started understanding what API means. And API has become heart and soul of every organization and the digital transformation associated with them. But why APIs are being pursued with such an aggressive way? Why organizations are embracing the API? Well, a simple presentation, a simple one-slide presentation would do much better. I'm trying to share my desktop with you, and hopefully you are able to see my desktop. Is it?
Yeah, we can see.
Good. Let's take an example. This slide depicts a problem statement and its solution faced by banking industry. So banking industry faced a scenario where, and it's a picture of the banking industry, I would say 10, 15 years ago. So banking industry embraced IT. They are using the IT in order to manage their day-to-day tasks. but they were still confined in their brick and mortar wall kind of working fashion. Now, the embracing the IT definitely resulted in boosting their sales, boosting their customer base, and boosting their profit. But soon that profit became steady. Banks wanted to serve their customers in a more better way. In fact, they wanted to have customers in a more better way. The problem is that the problem that banks realized is that with the increasing base of their customers, they cannot serve them with the good old-fashioned brick and mortar office. So the idea was to provide banking solution to customers wherever they want and whenever they want it. Now, this problem is acute. Banks used to have a closed form information system. They consider their information system to be so security sensitive that even a slightest security vulnerability could jeopardize the banking system. So they wanted a secure way in which they could externalize their information system and their customers could do the banking whenever and wherever they wanted. They didn't know that their dream could be fulfilled only when they externalize their information system with the help of APIs. APIs started their journey in the form of web services. So we had information system. The information system elements were broken down into smaller pieces and each generating several web services. Now these web services were called from web front. So the browser infrastructure technology was used. The application was created which can run in the browser, and these applications behind the scene, they called these web services. These web services picked up relevant elements of the banking information system and displayed them to the user. That's why, and you have also realized it, that banks started their journey about this externalization using a banking portal. So in older days, where they used to sell, I would say, the insurance product with the help of their agents, they now started putting the entire detail on a website. That was the start of the journey. Soon, they transformed themselves where a customer has the portal. Customer can log in, they can manage their assets on the portal itself. Banks call them the banking portal. And everybody started using them. Okay, computers became commodity and people relied on that heavily. Now a second wave of integration, a second wave of transformation came for the banks when mobile devices became very popular. Now the problem was a little more serious for them. The good old web services with which they have worked and relied, and in fact on which customers have also relied on, these web services started impeding the growth of the banking system. Why? Because these are too cumbersome for a mobile application to consume. So banks decided to transform their information system once again, and they moved from what we call traditional web services to what we now know as API. So the APIs have been created. These APIs are not immediately visible to customers, just like the older web services were not visible to customers. They were visible to what we call app developers. And these app developers used technology to create mobile apps. Behind these mobile apps, there were API calls. These API calls go straight into information system of a bank or of a company and extracted the information in the real time. These apps were then distributed using various app stores like App Store of Apple or I would say Play Store of Google, and customers can download it and can do the same. transaction. As a result, you now see that every bank provides you the mobile app. They are lifeline, and nobody, so like people like me and you, they do not now they do not want to go on their laptop to maybe transfer a chunk of money from their account to their friend's account. They want it to be available on the mobile devices. So this is an evolution which has started from the time when banks have opened their website and progressed, and then now in a shape where the banks are relying heavily on these APIs, the security, and their resilience. So this has been a journey. Without these APIs, this kind of information system access would not have been possible in any way. Now, this is a trend that not only the banking industry is following, but every other industry is following. So it's an insurance agency, insurance company, mortgage company, everybody else is following this pattern, and they are trying to revolutionize their information system with the help of API. Now that the API is at the center stage, the API is regarded as an important or very essential digital asset for a company. And like every digital asset, this API needs management. We need to understand how we can better manage the API. By better managing the API, we can better serve our customers. So there was a need in the air to have a product, or I would say to have a suite which can manage the API in as holistic sense as possible. Several companies responded to this demand. It's not the IBM that responded to this demand. There are several companies who responded to this demand. So you will see in today's world, there are several players in the market when it comes to the API management. This slide depicts many of them. So this is a Gartner. This is a slide taken from Gartner studies. You can see that is starting from Apple all the way up to the right-hand corner where we have IBM and CA Technology. So this slide was taken in October 2016. The world has changed since then, and IBM, which is now in this slide, which is shown as something behind the scene of CA Technologies or MuleSoft, it has taken the lead, and now it is one of the most prominent product in terms of IBM, in terms of API Connect technology in the market. So there are a lot of different players, and if you get a hands on them, you will find that they deal with a common concept. Once you understand that common concept, the details only differ. For example, they are all going to talk about a developer portal. They're all going to talk about an API management console. They're all going to talk about a console where you can compose the API rather than focusing on their programming. So they know it by their different names. Their workings could be different. That working is something which is very specific to them, and then you need to learn. But if you understand the core concept, the learning curve is significantly shorter for them. One of the goal of this project, one of the goal of this this training is to impart you those common concepts so that you know those common concepts, and whenever you have to learn, for example, MuleSoft, the learning curve for you should be small. Of course, this course will focus on IBM API Connect technology because we have to focus on something. We have to focus on some technology in order to learn the API Connect in a much practical way. So there is no difference if we choose MuleSoft over IBM. We chose IBM in this course outline. But at the end of the course, when you are done with IBM API Connect, you can safely assume that learning MuleSoft would be much easier for you. For an inadvertent guy, this would take, the MuleSoft learning may take a month. For you, it would take perhaps a week. So this is one of the core objective. This is also one of the core objective of this course. While learning the IBM API Connect, I must tell you that IBM API Connect product had also a journey. They started with 2.0. Then they used to call their product IBM API Management. And soon they evolved into API Management 3.0 and 4.0. Starting from 4.0 onwards, they started calling their API management product API Connect. That's a rename. But there are subtle differences between how you do things in API management, like version 2.0. So let's call it API Connect universally. And let's differentiate it with versions. So how you used to do your work in API Connect version 3.0 is significantly different from how you do it in the recent version, which is API Connect version 5.0. We will focus most of the time in this course on API Connect version 5.0, and we will have hands-on learning on that. Now, what we're going to cover mostly as part of API Connect here, as I told you, the first few sessions would be properly focused on understanding the core concepts around API Connect. Then we will slowly progress towards learning IBM specific aspects of API Connect. Technical jargons we will understand and their accurate meaning. We will also talk about API lifecycle and version control in a theoretical sense. And once that 20%, 25% part is complete, the rest 75% is all about hands-on. The hands-ons are structured in such a manner that we will first talk about the scenario. We will first talk about the core concept that we're going to learn, and then I will demonstrate that core concept with the help of API Connect product live. You will have a chance to see that how a particular concept relates to the tool and technology that is there in API Connect product, and the expectation is that by the end of that session, you should have proper understanding that you can do it by yourself. It is important for you guys to remember that the course will start with very smaller concepts, very trivial concepts. And soon we will accelerate and go deeper into the course. In order to get most out of this course, you will have to revisit the video and you will have to do that hands-on on a daily basis. If you forget to do it on a daily basis, perhaps you will not get most out of this course. So this is something that you have to keep in mind. So in summary, 25% of this course is theory, talking about core concepts of API Connect, essential for learning the practical ones. And rest 75% is a mix of theory and practical, where we will explain a concept and we will implement it there and then to see how the concept relates to the tooling and a practical world problem statement. So that's about the course. The course outline should be with you, and you can see the course objective over there. So one of the key things to learn about this course is how do we do the practicals. We are going to use Bluemix in order to do the practical. The Bluemix subscription will take occur no cost to you. It's for free until and unless you are using a wrong subscription. So I'll guide you in how to choose the right services so that the services are free for you. So if you confine to that, if you confine yourself to that, the services are going to be for free for you. The advantage of Bluemix is that Bluemix environment gives us the most recent version of IBM API Connect, and it allows us to experiment with API Connect without bothering how the installation has been done. API Connect, whenever you install it, it results in installation of a cloud. And like every cloud, API Connect installation has its own nuances. We'll not go into the nuances of dealing with the API Connect installation. That's beyond the scope of the current course. But we'll assume that API Connect is installed for us and is fully working for us. From there, we will see how to design and develop API on this API Connect product. OAuth is an integral part of this API Connect course. So understanding the fact that the scenario that we are depicting here, it relies heavily on the security. Understanding the security is one of the core parts of our API Connect course. We'll talk in more detail about how to secure our APIs that we are developing, what are different ways, and we will experiment with each different way. We'll talk about how we can authenticate an incoming customer using an enterprise LDAP. Maybe it's Active Directory or TFIM or whatever it is. So we'll see how to do that in a more practical sense. I'll show you how to implement that. Then we will talk about OAuth. OAuth is one of the core concepts these days, and this is something that you will not find in the course outline PDF because I'm yet to add that into that. But the course will talk about OAuth in complete detail, starting from the very beginning, where I assume that you don't have any background in OAuth. So we'll talk about it. And we will also see how to implement the OAuth using IBM API Connect technology in a more practical sense. This will complete your understanding about the OAuth and will allow you to deal with it in a more practical sense. So this is in a nutshell what this course is all about. Now, I invite you guys to ask your questions, clear your doubts, if at all any.
Yeah, my question is in relation to installation of APIC. From practical perspective, are we gonna work on local environment or Bluemix? I mean, yeah, I'm just wondering to know which is the more convenient way to work on, and how different companies are working on APIC.
All right. So I would say, have you worked on cloud before?
I just tried to work on the free version and not actually.
No, I'm saying, have you worked on cloud before?
No.
No, never worked on that. Okay. So here is the answer for this. Cloud is definitely a technology that helps you run your information system in a much agile way. But there are two approaches of endorsing the cloud. If you are a company which is focused on, say, building solutions, then you perhaps will not bother how my infrastructure is running. Say, for example, you are a DBA and your job is to manage and maintain the database. With cloud, you will get two different kinds of solution. One, where you get VM on which you can install the database, another where you get database as a service. Companies are now preferring that they go for database as a service because they do not have to bother about the underlying infrastructure. They don't have to worry about computers. They don't have to worry about load balancers and so on. They get data, they get to interact with the database. They can store their data into the database and do all sorts of activities that you can do with a local database. So the idea is that, the idea why I compared it is, if you look at IBM API Connect, there are two ways in which you can in which you can install it. One, you can install it on-premise. On-premise installation of cloud will require a lot of skill set from the company itself. You will need many people with the different expertise in order to install the cloud and run the cloud. But what is your ultimate goal? Even if you run the cloud, your ultimate goal is to do the development on that, right? And develop the API and expose the API to the external world. That you can achieve by going to the Bluemix and getting a subscription of API management from there. But how the Bluemix is different from the on-premise instance? It is different because on the Bluemix, IBM as a company, they have installed the API Connect cloud behind the scene. And now they are making you a tenant. As a tenant, you have all the features of the API Connect available to you. But additionally, you don't have to bother about the backend infrastructure. So you can do all your development activities, all creativity, and everything that you want. This is the advantage of the Bluemix environment. People go for the Bluemix environment. And I would not say that everybody goes for a Bluemix environment, but yeah, people go for the Bluemix environment. People who do not bother about the underlying infrastructure, their installation, they don't want to manage it. They just want to use their creativity in order to create APIs and then expose it to their customers. But there are other customers who opt for the on-premise installation too. These are primarily the customers who work in a high security environment like banks, who work in government department, again it's high security department, and who really bother, who really want to have the infrastructure in control of them. In a tenant-based environment, you don't have a visibility as to where your data is going behind the scene, on which machine your data is going behind the scene. That is not a concern for people like us or most of the companies. But that's certainly a concern for a company, for example, which manages SSN number in US. They want it to be physically separate from everybody else. If you have a concern like that, you should go for on-premise installation. But if you don't have a concern like that, then you can go for a Bluemix environment as well. If you ask me as a developer, I'll go for Bluemix environment because that is easier to use and it provides me most recent feature in a guarantee. Go ahead. If you have follow-up question, you are most welcome.
Sorry. So if that is so, from the developer's point of view, is there any difference working on the on-premise and just Bluemix? Because from the infrastructure point, I think on-premise, the organization should just take care of the servers, the database center, something like that. But whereas on the Bluemix, I think the IBM is the one who's taking care of the data center, if I'm not mistaken.
So
right?
the honest answer is that 99% they are same. So the Bluemix environment and the on-premise environment, they are 99% same. But there is 1% subtle difference. Those 1% difference are in terms of importing custom policies or reusing your data power in some sense. But 99%, they are same. And if you are dealing with the right version of the API Connect, for example, the current one is 5008, something 5008, yeah, it's something like that. So if you compare an on-premise installation which is running 5008 version of IBM API Connect, and if you compare it with the Bluemix version, their user interface and developer experience and their tool set, they are exactly same. There is no difference at all. Hence, it is safe to say that if you learn the API Connect on Bluemix environment, you have or you will see no difference at all when you work with API Connect in an on-premise environment.
So can we say that, let us say, if you are just teach us how to configure on the Bluemix, so can we work on the promise if in the future working with an organization which is working on promise? So with having the Bluemix experience, can you work on the promise? Is the configuration the same?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, folks. Ask questions.
Guys, any more questions or can we wrap up the session?
Yeah, I think for now we don't have any questions, so we can wrap up the session and continue.
Okay,
Yeah.
so go ahead, go ahead.
You can go ahead, sir, no problem. I'm just going to say thank you, that's it.
Okay, great. So I would request the Learn Chase team to share the course outline with the participants so that they have a fair idea about what is getting delivered and what won't be part of the course. And they can always come back to you. So guys, here is the communication mode. I want to be directly accessible to you guys. And all communication to me should be forwarded through the Learn Chase team. So they are going to circle it back to me, and then I will be able to respond to it. So this is how the communication is going to work for us. The course will take 20 to 25 hours to complete. As of now, what I have thought about is that we're gonna work on it 1 hour each day, Monday to Friday, IST time. So this is going to be so if you guys are based out in EST time zone, then the training will happen in your evening time after office hours. So if you are working, you don't have to worry about it. But the training slots are not fixed yet or finalized yet. So we are in the process of finalizing it, and we'll communicate it to you. If you have any preference slots, then you can talk to Learn Chase team, and I can talk to them and get this discussed and finalized. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot them an email, and they will redirect it to me. Thank you, and thanks for.
Just a moment, sir.
Yeah.
Guys, are you available every day at the same time, or any 1 hour late or something like that? Can we discuss the timings also? Is this timing available for you? The same timing for demo?
No. Hey, this timing won't work for me every day.
Oh,
So
okay, sir. You can give me your concerns. May I know your availability timing, sir?
uh, I'll have to look into my calendar and I will talk to you on this separately.
Yeah, sure, sir. Then I'll get back to you. Okay, sir. I'll get
Okay.
the timings also so that we can go ahead.
Great. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.